Welcome to My Business Matters, the Michigan Chamber podcast.
Hello, I'm Jim Holcomb, President and CEO of the Michigan Chamber of Commerce, and today's podcast host. As we celebrate National Manufacturing Month and National STEM Day, we're welcoming two very special guests who have forged their unique paths in these critical industry sectors. A big welcome today to Sara Messa, River Rouge Plant Manager for U.S. Gypsum. They are the largest distributor of wallboard in the United States and the largest manufacturer of gypsum products in North America. We also have another Sara with us today, Sara Kaltunas. And Sara is the Director of Environmental Operations for Packaging Corporation of America, one of the largest producers of containerboard and corrugated packaging products in the United States. Ladies, thank you so much for joining. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for having us, Jim.
As we dive into the topic today, because it is interesting to me, women in manufacturing, there's been a lot of focus on women in business and just making sure that we're telling the appropriate stories that need to be told. If we could just start with a little bit of background about each of you and your companies and kind of how you got your start in your field. So Sara Messa, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jim. Like Jim said, I'm Sara Messa. So I have been working for United States Gypsum Company for 22 years now. The company's been around since 1902. Like Jim mentioned, it's a leading manufacturer of building products. We're best known for the trademark sheetrock drywall, but we produce ceiling tiles, joint treatment products, flooring, roofing products. Actually, in fact, the USG products that are made right here in Michigan are used in the hospitals, office buildings, airports, universities, homes right here in Michigan, and then, of course, across the country as well. I started with USG over about 22 years ago. Through that time, I held various positions. I started out as an electrician in one of our manufacturing locations, and like it was mentioned, now I am the plant manager of our Detroit, River Rouge, Michigan location, where I oversee a team of about 100 employees.
Great. If you said you started as an electrician, did you come up through the trades, or how did you get to that spot?
So I actually went to school for industrial electricity and robotics.
Oh, wow.
I knew some people. My mother worked at United States Gypsum, so I started into the Gypsum, Ohio plant there as an electrician, and kind of worked my way up from there.
Oh, fantastic. Sara Kaltunas, how about you? A little bit of your background on you and your company.
Sure. Thanks, Jim. So like you already mentioned, Packaging Corporation of America, also referred to as PCA, is one of the largest producers of containerboard and corrugated packaging products in the U.S. We've got over 120 facilities across the country. That includes 7 containerboard mills and 89 manufacturing locations. And so you, of course, would know us in your homes as the boxes that are being delivered to you. And also in the stores, we do a lot of high-quality packaging, food-grade packaging, end-of-aisle displays. Really fancy boxes is a way I like to explain it. And I always like to add that when you have a box in your hand, next time you do, when it's received at home or taking it home from the store, flip it upside down and you can see the stamp on the bottom, and you'll notice which company has manufactured that. So look out for the PCA logo.
Always on the lookout for good products.
Yeah, definitely. As far as my personal background, so I am born and raised in Ludington, Michigan. I currently live in Manistee, Michigan, very close to the Filer City mill for PCA, with my husband and my 3 young boys. I have a bachelor's in chemical engineering from the University of Michigan, and I'm also a licensed professional engineer in the state. My position now at PCA is Director of Environmental Operations. I've been with the company for over 13 years. In fact, originally I started off as a co-op student for the Filer City, Michigan mill. I worked there for 15 months straight through, actually took a break between my sophomore and junior year of college to do that, and then worked my way up first as a process engineer, then moved into environmental management for the Filer City, Michigan mill, and then moved into the corporate group in 2021 and am now in my current position. And as far as being a director of environmental operations, what that means for the company is I am responsible for maintaining environmental compliance for all of our facilities. And that's across all media and pulp and paper. We've got large air permits. We've got water discharge permits, solid waste management, landfills on site, all of those fun things. So I get to oversee and ensure compliance for those areas. And in my spare time, I really enjoy coaching soccer, and I'm also an elementary robotics coach for my boys.
Oh, that's fantastic. Robotics, just as a side, I can't believe how fast and how far that has taken off in Michigan schools. From elementary grade on up, it just seems to be a wonderful program that's really exposing our young students to possibilities. Whether they want to go into that field or not, they're learning problem solving, they're learning STEM skills, they're learning to work collaboratively. It just seems like one of the best extracurriculars out there for kids.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so jealous that I did not have that option when I was growing up in school. So I agree. It's a great opportunity for kids. There's so much more than just that math and science component of robotics. You're learning communication skills. You're learning how to communicate with kids, adults, just so many different aspects to it.
And I would be remiss if I didn't give you a Go Blue. I'd love hearing anybody who goes to the University of Michigan. That's always a benefit. I'm interested a little bit, too, if you could expand, as you think about your career, the co-op work and the educational work, do they work together? Did one steer you stronger than the other to the work you're doing today?
I would definitely say that my co-op experience, coupled with a couple other intern experiences, is what steered me the most on my path. Education is necessary. You need it to understand what you're going to do later in life, right? But that hands-on in the plant, in a given industry experience was pivotal for me deciding what I really liked. What environment I wanted to be in. Today we're talking about manufacturing. I also did an internship for another company in quality assurance. Found that to not be my type of rhythm versus the excitement of manufacturing. So yes, I would say that a co-op and internship, those were very influential in deciding what I wanted to do.
Sara, Messa, on your work as an electrician, how did that shape where you are now? Is it a skill that you had that you've developed further and it's led you out? Did it lead you to the type of work you want to do? How do you view what you do now compared to where you started your employment?
So yeah, when I started as an electrician at one of our facilities, then I just started out really green. My family kind of always valued knowing a trade. So kind of going into like the electrical field obviously really helps me in my private life, other than people always want you to wire up their basements then. But other than that, but I think throughout that, you can always go back to it. You have that knowledge, whether you're when I was a production manager, and where the equipment was having issues, you can kind of rely on it then. As a plant manager, going through the various positions, the various levels of the corporation, you kind of know how each person kind of feels and takes the information that they're given at each level then. So,
as a plant manager, do you find it difficult sometimes not to just jump in and solve the problem, or not to constantly be in there doing the work? Because obviously you have responsibility for so many different segments and areas. How do you divide your time, or how do you figure out your workload?
So I think that's the kind of the fun of it is something different every day. I absolutely love it because I am completely busy throughout the day. Yes, I probably try to get involved a little bit more than they would like me to, but I am not under the impression that I would be able to solve it over them. Just a very talented team that I have here that I have seen able to figure out many different situations that have came up throughout the years. Just a great group of people, like I said, very smart, talented group that they're able to solve it. But yes, as a plant manager, you just want to be involved in everything. But I think, like I said, that's the fun of it. You're in from the engagement activities of the plant all the way through of planning out, the capital equipment installations and stuff like that.
I come from a family. I have 3 sisters. I have a daughter, and I'm interested in your perspective. I think there's been a narrative out there for many years that we don't support our young women students in the STEM field or in the manufacturing arena. I'm interested if you think that is still true, or have we made progress where it's more about just making sure we're exposing all students to their opportunities and helping nurture them along. And Sara Kaltunas, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I would say, quite honestly, there are some, still outdated perceptions out there. I say outdated, but that I am still seeing those in some K through 12 educational events. We already touched on robotics, for example. And I'll tell you that, I think we're doing a great job these days of supporting young kids, specifically girls, moving into these programs. But where we need to improve is the amount of role models and mentors that are available to these girls. So, for example, when I'm at a robotics event, I might see a handful of teams of girls, but they may not be coached by women in similar fields. So that's where I see that we have room to improve, where people like myself, the other Sara on the call, that we need to make ourselves available to the young female community to say, hey, we're out there, we're, successful and thriving in our industry and our roles. Let's give back to you as models and mentors in STEM programs that are available. So yeah, in summary, I think the programs are available and are being widely advertised. The female mentors need to step up their game to help these girls thrive.
It's such a wonderful point about mentorship, because I think regardless of field or industry or gender, it's about having someone who cares enough to spend some time with you and share their expertise, their experience, their passion and vision for a certain field or trade, and just making sure that students are getting the full perspective. Because I worry right now there are so many students. When I was growing up, you kind of knew what jobs were available, whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, agriculture, an engineer, mechanic, all the different things. You could almost on a couple sheets of legal pad kind of put out the jobs that you were familiar with by your family, friends, parents. And now with technology, new jobs are being created so quickly that so many of the jobs that kids will have who are in school now aren't even conceived or invented yet.
Yeah, that's a really good point. In fact, I had just a very similar conversation with a coworker recently, specifically talking about engineering majors, for example. Back in the day, there was just general engineering. And you look now at the gamut of engineering majors that are offered at colleges, universities, it can be overwhelming. And then there's the overwhelm of what's the best fit for me. If you can't pick, then I'm not going to do it at all. So, yeah, I agree. I think that we need to just, in some extent, go back to the basics. Don't overthink, don't overstress about where you start in an engineering field, for example, in an engineering major, and you'll figure out with your gut feeling, where you're meant to land.
Yeah, so many people, it's no longer... you guys have great careers going at your companies, but so few people stay at a company for several years or even stay in the same job. It's about every 6 years, I think it's the last study I saw, that you're changing your career. So for many people, it's a job. It's not a vocation anymore, and you aren't staying in these long-term arrangements. Sara, Messa, I was wondering your thoughts on this. Are we making progress? Are we exposing our young ladies in the educational or trades process to the opportunities that are available to them?
Yeah, I think now the school systems have made incredible progress on introducing the STEM classes, equal opportunity for every student, male and female, and offering career fairs, tours of local businesses. Like you mentioned, Jim, I know when I was growing up in school, like you said, you only know the careers, what you saw on a daily basis,
Yep.
which was teachers or what your parents or relatives' career were. I think the schools have really shown children what else is out there then. I still think there's probably a lot of improvements that need made. Each person's interests in the STEM field might be something different. So, these STEM classes might focus on robotics or 3D printing, where there's, additional things that fall within that field that maybe does catch some interest outside of those two things for some children. So, just keep evolving those programs, and I think more and more people would be interested in it.
I'm curious your perspectives. We hear a lot about AI, but just technology in general, how it's changing the manufacturing landscape or work within the STEM fields. I recently toured a facility where they use visual training, like a video game, to teach welding or to teach carpentry, and they use it to teach students in high school. And it was a 3D world where you came in. I'm just wondering, what are you seeing in technology in your job that's either making it harder or easier? Because I find a lot of times technology is supposed to make my life easier, and it makes it more complicated and cumbersome. I'm just wondering how you see it in the fields that you're in. So, Sara Kaltunas, we'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I would say, so looking at pulp and paper making, and that, I'll call it a historic industry, right? We've been making paper for a long time. So the technical advancements that we've seen are in instrumentation, so we can scan to calculate the moisture content of the paper, all these scanners, sensors, and while that's been helpful in data collection, where we have had to refine from the human aspect of it is, where do we set boundaries on alerts? You could have alerts on everything, right? So it's honing in that technology to work for us, but not to create nuisance problems. Where it's been very valuable on the environmental side of the business is being able to track environmental parameters that we just were not able to measure historically. One example that I just came across recently was for a wastewater treatment plant. Now the technology is out there where you can take drones over these large wastewater treatment systems to get an overhead view of them. You can take boats, remote-operated boats with sonar on the bottom of them to measure depths and to record pH, temperature. So in that way, I think it has been much more helpful than a burden in our industry. I will add that the increase in technology and the availability of communication and instant messaging, we need to make sure that we're mindful of our communication skills and that we're not losing that face-to-face and even phone call communication. I will say that I have noticed a shift certainly towards text messaging, instant messaging on like a Teams platform. And I do hope that we retain that personal communication skill as well. The face-to-face is just critical for long-term relationships.
Just in the general business community and even in my daily life, I would just wholeheartedly echo that. I see especially a lot of young people who aren't competent in written communication and even in interpersonal interactions. They aren't good at carrying on a conversation, looking somebody in the eye and really engaging. Everything is very truncated, and it goes back to that text messaging. They're used to communicating in special characters and 140 characters at most, and not really an expansive, intellectually stimulating conversation, which is, I think, what you need to really move forward in a career. You need to be an active participant.
Yeah, definitely agree.
Sara Messa, I'm wondering with you, what's the best advice that you would give to a woman considering or beginning their careers in the manufacturing and STEM fields, possibly something maybe you wish you had known when you started?
Probably be open to possibilities. Like you mentioned, started as an electrician, could barely hold a screwdriver when I started, and trust me, my first boss could attest to that. But, I just value all of the experience and knowledge I received throughout the years in every position that I've taken, and the people I met here at United States Gypsum Company over the years. Starting in each new position, and it doesn't matter what position you're going into, you're going to have initial self-doubt. That's normal. But what you gain from stepping out of your comfort zone is invaluable.
Yeah.
So that would be kind of the advice I give. Don't sell yourself short. Just be open to possibilities.
I think you're exactly right. I actually just had this conversation with my daughter, who's a senior in college. It's not about where you are or where you're starting or where you want to end. It's about the process you get to that final destination in your career. And it's about learning and being open. And really, there are a lot of things that I think young people don't understand what they're learning from a task. They think something may be a tedious task or something that the computer can do quicker, but it's about the process they're learning. It's about the problem solving they're developing. It's about learning how to communicate with somebody else about what's happening. And I think far too often we short circuit that, and we're seeing it in young people where they want to short circuit their career. They all want to jump to the next thing instead of just developing and maturing through their career, which I think is definitely harmful to them. We're starting to run out of time, but I wanted to give you each one last shot at anything we haven't discussed or one point that you wanted to make that you think our listeners and business leaders should hear about manufacturing, about STEM, about bringing more female voices into that world if you see that as a need. And we'll start with Sara Kaltunas.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, so many great points already brought up in the discussion today. I would just say to the community that's listening, to echo my statement from earlier in the interview, is that the women listening that are in industry right now in manufacturing, we need to do our best to reach out to our local communities, to volunteer, to make these young women aware of the opportunities that we've been presented and the paths that they might be able to pursue and succeed in. So I just urge that strongly of our women leader community, is to reach out in your small town communities to just teach, what you've learned. And then for young women that are getting ready to consider fields, consider majors in universities, colleges, to take advantage of any opportunities that come your way. Always be seeking out training, education, and networking opportunities. We hit on communication. It's just so critical to have success in any field, I believe. And the more opportunities you take advantage of, the more you will learn what fits you best.
Sara Messa, your final thoughts?
Yes, excellent points by Sara. I just want to, like I said before, don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. When you're going into your careers, or if you're thinking about changing your careers, we're talking about women in manufacturing. Manufacturing is an exciting environment. It's an opportunity to build your skills, innovate new products. It also gives you the pride in knowing that you have a hand in creating the products that you supply or to build your communities. It's not the manufacturing of the past, it's the manufacturing of the future. And I think there's a lot of opportunities there. So if you are looking to start out in manufacturing or a place for you to grow your career, United States is a great company that will provide that opportunity for you, but also manufacturing in general just gives so many different avenues for you to go into.
Great points. I think you're exactly right. I know over the last couple of years, have toured a lot of manufacturing sites and plants, and it's just so different from what people perceive. It's the innovation, the excitement, the technology, and like you said, it's about making products that impact people on a daily life. And so it's just wonderful that companies like United States Gypsum and Packaging Corporation of America are doing great work here in Michigan. We appreciate you both. And once again, time goes by fast, but a very special thanks to Sara Messa and Sara Kaltunas for sharing their insights today, and to all of you for listening. Tune into our next episode and subscribe or like our podcasts for easy notifications. And until then, think about how you can be a mentor to that young person in your life or your community.